is just, did I mispronounce that, brother?
It's okay. Janiec, but
Janiec.
Everybody gets it wrong.
Janiec. I got to say it right, man. It sounds good. Janiec. All right. So here with my brother, people are starting to come in. Welcome to the loving room. We're here together with my good friend and brother, Mischa Janiec. And people are coming into the loving room, into this loving space of conversation and keeping ourselves lifted in high consciousness. That's what it's all about, man. We got to keep ourselves lifted in high consciousness and to be impervious, right? This kind of community, this kind of connection helps us, it's the vaccine to the lower vibrational frequencies of life, right? It's what keeps us inoculated from those lower thought forms of fear, doubt, worry, not enoughness. So our community is our immunity, baby. That's what I'm talking about. So, so welcome, Mischa. Let me just tell you this. Let me tell you a little bit about this amazing being that we get to talk to today. Mischa is a rebel, always has been, both in his previous life, in the symbolic change of society, and now in personal freedom as a lateral thinker and visionary. After a brilliant development that he has already made as a professional athlete and fitness influencer within the last 10 years, he concentrated on his real passion and life's task, which is the support of all those who fully want to find their why. And on the way to the ultimate freedom, they are ready to finally break their chains. Mischa definitely does not see himself as a self-help guru, but has been living exactly what he wants to teach other people for 6 years. He takes 100% responsibility for his life, inspires his fellow human beings, and strives for the highest form of self-realization. Anyone who has followed their path on social media knows that their success as a self-made entrepreneur and location-independent digital nomad, that he was that was not born in their cradle. He was not born into this. He created this, and he is drawing his inspiration and giving inspiration out through his YouTube channel and podcast. So a long introduction for a really amazing being. Mischa, welcome.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for being here, and everybody's checking in today. Right now in Tulum, so not that far away from you guys, I think. And
Tulum is close.
Yeah, it's actually one of the best places to be right now. That's the geolocation independency, right? Like, this makes sense right now more than ever to just keep as little physical belongings. Like, I feel like even more free right now, knowing that I don't have to be anywhere. So that's why right now I feel even better being here. Like, even though it's not a nice form of gratefulness, like, you shouldn't be grateful, more grateful if something else is harder to get, but it just feels like more of a reward even, you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is that the beautiful thing about this spiritual work and the work in consciousness that we do is that there's an abundance of all manner, right? And that your good, the good that you're experiencing, doesn't diminish anybody else's good, right? So you can be grateful for the blessings that you're experiencing, being geo-independent, being able to be mobile in this world right now. And it doesn't mean that you're taking anything away from anybody else, you know?
Yeah, it's just funny, you know, like when I used to be here last time, I already really liked it, the warm weather and the community, the tribe here. But every time I sit down in a vegan restaurant and getting my food with my girlfriend, and we're just feeling the breeze, I feel even more grateful right now, because I know that this is rare right now to just be able to not wear a mask and actually just relax in that. So it just feels even more like a privilege, you know, to be alive right now in this vessel.
It's very humbling, right? I felt the same way in at Rythmia in Costa Rica during so much of the pandemic, was to have this freedom that I knew that my brothers and sisters in LA might not have, or in other large urban populations. You know, so it is humbling. So you've been in Tulum for how long?
I've been here for 10 weeks now. Yeah, already a pretty long time. I came from, last time we spoke, I was in Portugal.
Yes.
I've spent the whole summer there. It was most amazing time ever. Like usually I'm always in LA around that time, but last year, I just didn't want to. I didn't want to work, but I was super lucky. And now I'm here in Tulum, and I really start to also make roots here. Like build everywhere I go. I like to build community, because then I always feel like home everywhere I go. It always feels like I never leave home, because everywhere I go is home.
Yes. Oh, that's so important, man. I feel that too, about building community where you're going. So tell me how you've been building community, and tell me about the community that you are finding in Tulum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, this is an interesting one, but I can definitely also just make a big connection to Rythmia last year. So I used to be, or I still am, a more like reason, I would say like rational person. So far it always used to be my dream to have a network all over the world with several people, like for business, like like just to have like almost like a value network. So this is a very rational way of looking at it. But now this year, after Rythmia and also here in Tulum, I realized, whoa, there is more than just like value. There is actual like connection with people, like on a heart base. So since I'm here, I really start to like work more towards that side, like eye contact, vulnerability, just like realizing that there is more to communication than just like talking, actually like listening. So the things I basically already knew, and I'm doing it really good. When I coach people, it's not a problem. But as soon as my own ego is involved, my own persona, it's really hard for me to just be. And now this time, I feel like it's the first time I actually connected with people on a, like before we even talked about any business or like what we could do, what we could conquer. We were like first like connecting a whole night together, like heart to heart, like hugs, like stuff like this. And now I really feel I want this more with everybody. With my girlfriend, I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper with everybody. So it's still the same way I do it. I'm still a very like extroverted, very like I'm really fast in like making connections. But now I feel like I combine both. I can combine both and really make like a great, just like a great community, a value-based community. Like it doesn't feel like friends who I just have because they're good in programming or they're good in laws or whatever. Like, no, I need to love this person first, and then we can talk about qualifications. It just makes life easier and more beautiful.
I was one of the things that I loved about living and working in other countries, especially in Latin countries. 20 years ago, I started working in Mexico. I was in Baja California and Guadalajara. And what I noticed about every business meeting, these were straight up business meetings. I was working for a petroleum company at the time. But even petroleum executives, which are a whole different brand of people, man, let me tell you. But even then, the Mexican executives that we would work with, there was never sitting down to a meeting and sort of in a very United States sort of way, like, let's get to business, right? It was always a long preamble of connecting and how's the wife and how did you spend the last weekend and just conversation. Meetings always went long because you were always, connecting first. And then, you got to business after the connection was made. It sounds like that's what you're engaged in now, which is beautiful, man.
Yeah. It's way harder to do this in my business still. Like when I'm in business, since my whole team, like all my employees are like all over the world. So doing it over Zoom is even harder for me because now I'm like, there's not the same energetic vibration between us. So I feel like I have to learn this even more now. Yeah.
Yes. And it's still, there is something real, right, around this. This is so great for everybody too, because we're all dealing with this, with the feeling of disconnection with Zoom and not having that personal connection. I was sharing with you off camera before we started that Rythmia is open and we test people. We're one of the only resorts in the world, I think, that actually offer a COVID test before you come on property so that you can actually live pre-COVID. While you're there, people are tested and it's a bubble. And so, everybody is negative and you can live little more freely. And what we find is when people come on property, man, the first thing they say is, oh my God, this is the first time I've hugged somebody in months, you know? So it is harder to do. And yet there's something that we can tap into energetically, even on Zoom, to feel that heart-based connection. And there's something greater than the physical body.
Yeah, it's the intention. It's the intention of actually seeing the conversation as the end and not just as a means to the end. That's what I realized. And that's the hard part with business, obviously, because there's always a means to the end. But if you start with like, hey, how are you? But not like just like how are you, but like actually, no, how are you right now? How do you feel? And like it's like, oh shit. And then you start to scan, like, okay, yeah, there is anxiety, there is maybe a little bit of like fear or anger or whatever, and then you can like actually like see this person first, and it's a really beautiful one to actually also become like congruent together, right? Like,
it sounds like you're starting to articulate a little something of maybe some insights that you've had. I want to hear, what you have been. I want to hear what you've been experiencing, what your thoughts have been, what you've been thinking about as the year came to a close and a new year opens up. Let's start this. Let me get back to, how did you spend your New Year's? How did you mark the change of this calendar?
So it was funny. My girlfriend was flying in from Hawaii, from LA back. She visited her family over Christmas. And so she came, her flight got delayed, and then she missed the connection flight in Texas, and then her suitcase got lost. So we had to wait on the airport until like 10 p.m. and then drove straight back to Tulum and basically celebrated the first 5 minutes of the New Year's in the car, which was cute. And then we went to an event, like a little gathering party / of friends of mine I met here. Like, they have a hotel here, a very like eco-sustainable, really beautiful hotel here in the jungle. And we just spent there, and it was very intimate. It was not a big rave, not a big techno party. Like I used to go, or I usually like those parties, but right now for New Year's Eve, I just wanted to have something like a little bit more private. And it was just beautiful, It was just like it basically started the way I like to start it, like with just like honesty. So my biggest realization last year was that with all the analysis there is, self-analysis, self-reflection, even all the psychedelics I've ever took, including Rythmia, it's your mind protects the lies extremely good. And if you don't recognize the lie, you will never get the way. You will never make the way out. There will always be another me pulling the strings, and you will always create certain results. Certain behavior patterns will repeat, and you will never understand why. So this year, around Christmas, I realized I was also like still lying to myself. So I realized in myself a lie, which caused disconnection with certain people, especially with women, for example. And I just became aware of it, and now I basically know exactly what I can do. So even though some things get harder right now, like with a new truth, with a new paradigm, that's what I realized too after Rythmia. A lot of people, when they get their miracle, it's like, holy shit. And now the work starts.
Yes.
So that was not the work. And after Rythmia, I felt it was almost like too good to be true. It was almost too good to be true. I learned a lot, but I was still not. My ego was probably still good enough, like strong enough to keep certain boundaries. Probably should have drinking the 4th cup. But now I realize that. So now I'm really on a point where I'm like free. Like I feel even more free than I used to, because I'm like completely expressing my feelings. And I'm not holding back something, and this feels fucking amazing.
So you said you realize a lie. Now at Rythmia, we have a sort of idea of what we call the keystone lie. I want to tell me what you mean by there are some lies. The ego can lie to you, or that that you've been lying to yourself, without getting too personal, or if you want to get personal. But what do you mean by that? What's the lie?
Yeah. So the ego. So I try to keep it very easy for people to understand. So when I talk about the ego, I talk about the storyteller. So the guy who tells the stories, and then you have the mind in the middle, who basically like gets those, like it's still the same, the mind and the ego for me. It's like the feeling of that's me, but the mind sometimes is able to like say like, this is actually a story from my ego, or he can believe the story, and then the story becomes the self-image. So if the mind is basically like the guy in front of the door who says, I believe it or I don't believe it. I question it or I just believe it. And for some reason, I never questioned one of the biggest stories I was always telling myself. And it's that I'm a really like, how do you say that? Like a very rational, very like man, just like a man with not a lot of feelings. And that, for example, like casual sex is something I just want, and it has nothing to do with feelings for me. So basically that I'm able to just have sex with other women without actually having a feeling like that. It's just a story I always believed until my girlfriend came into my life and I realized there is something, but I was still pretty sure that I'm very like cut off from my feelings. And I realized this is bullshit. So that there is actually a lot of like intimacy my body is craving, which has nothing to do with sex, like zero. Like sex is not even like, I used to think like, oh, I want sex. I want like, like I want several partners maybe or whatever. But it was actually never that. It was always the craving for real intimacy. And that makes you extremely vulnerable to understand, because now I'm like not a male anymore, like a protected male. Like, yeah, it's just, now I'm like, oh, fuck, I actually crave what is, just acknowledge it. I just acknowledge that there is more than just like physical contact, right? So that's interesting.
These narratives that we tell ourselves are there's a principle here. There's a spiritual principle, right? That everything is working together for our good, and that the obstacle is the way, right? There's a great book by Ryan Holiday called "The Obstacle Is the Way," and and I think what that points to is, it's really perfect and by design. Like that feeling that you had protected you, and it worked up to a point until it didn't work. And then you got to break through that protective coating, that egoic structure. And the very breaking through of that egoic structure is the fuel that provided you the energy to break through to the next level, right? So it really is perfect, right? And I love that. I've had a huge realization around that as well, around for me, what's been up this transition of the calendar is about harmonizing those disparate or seemingly different parts within myself. So there was a part that was like, I want this intimacy, unlimited joy and intimacy and a partner, right? And that connection. And then, I'm a gay man, in this age of social media, and it's easy to have non, things are out, sexual, casual sexual encounters, and then there was a narrative around, well, that's bad and this is good, right? Intimacy and joy is good, casual sex is bad, right? And now I'm creating that narrative, and it's really bringing those two together, not literally bringing them together in the physical world, but bringing them together within myself, that there's not one part of me that isn't worthy of being loved and appreciated, even the part that's sort of the nasty boy, and even the part that's the saint. And it's not about rejecting one and bringing in the other. It's about harmonizing the two. And it's in that harmonization that we actually ascend.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And the longer you keep the lie alive, the more you detach yourself from the true joy you could have by actually being the person, right? Like it's like you're so scared of like becoming this person, probably subconsciously you don't even realize it, because there is people who know you for who you are. And if it's like your loved ones, the people very close to you, you feel like, who am I going to be if I'm going to like let loose of this? And I guess this other person still going to love me. So this was probably also like a factor which came into play, where I was just like holding on to that lie for a long time. And I remember the moral thing too. So one of my mottos, one of my like big mantras for this new year, also because of the whole COVID thing which happened, is moral separates. Period. Moral separates. So,
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Morals not only separate yourself from your higher self, because you basically like morals are mind made. It's like a mind thing. I'm not talking about ethics and suffering, and there is a big science behind like the moral landscape, where you can like actually like measure how people suffer and what the biggest problems in the world are. But I'm talking more about the dialogue with yourself and with others. So as soon as you have a moral judgment towards yourself, you basically lose the connection to your higher self, because you're basically in your mind telling yourself, I shouldn't have sex with this dude in your case, or like I shouldn't have sex with this girl in my case, right? It's just like, no, this is wrong. And no, it's not wrong. It is what it is. Right? The reality is always right. Like what is always right. If you're not realizing that what you feel right now is right, if you deny your own feeling of what is right, you're basically creating attachment. You're holding on to a should, a could, a this shouldn't be. And this creates, in my opinion, the biggest suffering. And that's what I always explain my clients in every session. But I never realized it, that even, and that's the thing, it's not a big suffering. I wasn't suffering. I was never really suffering. But in the moment I realized, oh, there is more freedom. So it just feels like more freedom right now. And that's the thing. If you start to talk with your friend about morals, you will always lose, because you will separate yourself from this person instead of talking about your real desires, like your own desires, and how to get those desires met, your needs met, like the needs. Then you will have a true, honest conversation about the truth, and not about the moral, which basically fulfills the need, because those are just like a on top. Like there's a need and then there's a value. And for some people, they need to do this, they need to be in harmony, or they need to have freedom, or they need to have like new things all the time. Other people want to be the best. But at the end of the day, the need is, I want to be loved, I want to be understood, I want to feel safe. The more you can talk about those things, the easier it gets to connect with people, like values and morals, the more you will separate yourself from others. So that's a big one for me, because especially with the COVID thing, because there's it's such a split now, you know, like either you're against it or you're like panicking. There's not an understanding anymore of what we actually all want. It just became a moral discussion of good and wrong.
I like what you're saying, because and for me, I want to clarify one thing. It's you know, there's the moral, and you were talking about normative statements, the should, I should do this or I shouldn't do that. Those normative statements that indicate social sensibilities, right? And at different times in our culture, things have been more or less you know, that moral compass switches, right? It's ephemeral, it's short, and it's changing, right? So if I'm looking at intimacy versus casual physical encounters, it doesn't mean that I'm saying one is right and one is wrong, or there's anything better or worse about any of the other, one or the other. But the honesty comes in not pushing away one for the other, because you're feeling it. I think this is what you're saying. Because I'm feeling it, it's worthy to be worthy to be felt. Let me be present to this emotion. Let me be present to what I'm experiencing. And in that, something new emerges, a new way of being, around that emerges. It doesn't have anything to do with external right and wrong or thoughts, but has to do with something true within yourself and that's real. It helps us navigate life in a much more authentic way. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. It's like feelings are feelings have nothing to do with rationality. You can't, like, it doesn't have to make sense. Feelings don't have to make sense. They just are. That's the beauty of it. They just are. And the more you can like embrace them instead of like fighting them, the more you will create a free flow of energy, and you will actually always do the right decisions, you know. Make the right decisions, and as soon as the ego, the storyteller will come in again, you will be it's very easy to get persuaded again in the story. That's why for me there's still like what I want to actually find out for myself is, because I realize how important psychedelics are for my personal journey. I mean, there's other people, they maybe meditate for hours every day, but for my personal like I have meditation for myself just to be in balance. I never was able to get into those higher frequencies of like non-duality, but with psychedelics, I'm now more than ever able to tap into it. So I'm just still interested in your opinion about how much psychedelics are too much, or like where do you could like, you know, that you could, like, it's almost like you're getting a reminder once in a while. So for me right now, I feel like once a month is a really good like frequency for me to just remind myself. Obviously not going to Rythmia every month, that would be a little bit too harsh. But once a year, like a really deep dive, like a solo retreat or like a Rythmia once a year, just to basically like reevaluate, reflect, reconnect with your heart, and then doing those like integrations from month to month, and actually like creating the intention of just like anchor the feelings, anchor the truth for yourself. Because I used to say like, don't do psychedelics too much, especially because most people just do them without integration, without anything. But now I feel like maybe there is. I mean, I have a friend who did 7 days in a row. He did like LSD, and he said it was great for him. So I don't know. Do you see like there is an extreme, or how would you talk about this topic for somebody who really wants to know what truth actually means without the mind always coming into?
Well, okay, to answer that question directly, one of my favorite quotes of all time is from Ram Dass, who says, if you want to know the truth, give up your opinions. Which I just think is so beautiful, right? Like and that's exactly what we were talking about just a second ago. The normative statements, give up your opinions and judgments, give up the shoulds and shouldn'ts. If you want to know the truth, sit with it, and something true will emerge. When you're not, you know, the freedom comes in observing those feelings without judgment. That's it. Freedom is observation without judgment. Yeah. A lady came out of ceremony one day and screamed that at me. She's like, John Jacob, I got it. Freedom is observation without judgment. I said, where'd you get that? She goes, it's ceremony. I go, that's brilliant, you know? Now to your second question about what's too much for psychedelics. You know, everybody has their own sense of that. For me, it's really when I feel the call. I consider ayahuasca and other plant medicines, other modalities as serious tools in my spiritual gig bag, right? In my spiritual toolkit. And so each person has their sort of, you know, the shamans are on a shamanic path. They're drinking a lot. You're saying, you know, right now, once a month feels great. Listen to that. I think the danger is, I see it not only in psychedelics, but even at my spiritual center at Agape in Beverly Hills, you know, Los Angeles. When we were doing live services on Wednesdays and Sundays, and people would come to the center for a live service, and you walk into that space, and there's great music and a great message, and you leave feeling great, like it uplifts you. And then if you don't do the work during the week, you just gotta. It's like you keep coming back for a hit. Like, I just got to feel better. Let me feel better. I want to feel that. And you're not doing the work in between. Same thing with your ayahuasca ceremonies. So many people get the hit. They want to feel great. They want to take the elevator right up, but then they're not doing the integration work, which is at least 50% of it.
At least, at
the very least, I had a beautiful image in meditation about ceremony. And, I had done ceremonies, so many ceremonies over the years. I might, every 1 to 2 months, I probably do a ceremony, and in meditation one day, I got this image of all of the ceremonies that I had done. They were like river heads, like the headwaters of rivers, right? Like where the river emerges, and they were all flowing into one, right? Like all of these, and each one of those was an intention. Each intention that I set with each ceremony, and so the intentions were like rivers, all converging into one and flowing over me. And it was a beautiful image that the intentions that we set are still working.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to become more aware of that subtle energy, and I think that's what you're talking about.
I mean, that's all about, like, that's what I'm always talking about with my clients, about the both sides of the brain. Like, the intention comes from your mind. And if you're not aware of your intention, you will always create a result you don't really want. Like, I have so many people who live in a result they never wanted, they thought, but then when working with me at some point, they realize, oh shit, I did this on an intention. Like, for example, if you have the intention of being right, that's the most dangerous one I've ever encountered. If your deepest intention is, I want to be right, holy shit, you will make your life miserable, because you will always be right. Especially if you are a pessimistic person with this intention of being right, you will create the worst situations because you will always be right.
Yes.
And it's unbelievable how much suffering is coming just from not being able to see the own programming. You're basically, I mean, that's the first 7 years of your life, right? Is programming. It's like hypnosis, right? Like, authority, trustworthy people will just give you the code. And this is parents and teachers. And nowadays, even now, it's media. It's especially right now. I'm so glad I'm off the hook I'm already doing information diet for 15 years, but even social media, I reduced it to a bare minimum. I have employees doing all my stuff, so I basically don't have to be there anymore. I really try to my 5-year goal is, with 35, I don't want to be on social media anymore. You will only find me in Thailand, in my tribe. You will only be able to communicate with me one-on-one, or on Zoom. Maybe I'm just going to do a podcast with friends live, but I'm not going to be in those social media things anymore, because I realize now that this is rational. It's and the rational era. I feel like that's a statement I really realize is true. Last year was almost like the proof that the rational world is coming to is limit. That's the limit of our rationale right now. Like lockdowns, keeping people at home, creating weird rules which don't make sense. Like, this is where we are right now. We can't be more rational than we are right now. And I feel like there now has to be a discussion at some point about, like, what does feel right? Like, what actually feels right in this moment? Like, that it's not, we're not bringing it down to just like rules and basically like computer models and stuff, because it won't get us back together. It will, maybe we will survive the COVID a little bit. I don't know. Maybe there's going to be more survivors, but there's going to be more down the hill we don't even realize, like deep level conditioning. Just like also the fact that so many people right now are like, jobless and poverty, and it's so harsh to just like realize that we're right now in the beginning of a new era, and therefore I feel like all the people I know, I just want to make sure that we're not moralizing, we're not creating like our opinions on the outside, actually like coming from the heart, like coming from what feels true to us. Because in certain moments there is science which can actually help us. Like there is laws, there is mathematics, there is physical laws, there's a lot of things we can actually do with the rationale. But especially in times like this where rationale is just not working because we are not rational beings, so we're basically fighting against ourselves. I feel that's how it feels right now. We're creating tension and separation, which is far more dangerous than any virus ever will be, probably.
Well, I definitely agree with that. Tension and separation can be far more dangerous than any virus. I think it's very interesting. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So, well, first of all, the idea of we're at the height of rationality. I mean, I think what you're referring to is the sort of scientific, rational way of approaching the virus. You know, but I see in politics and government the height of irrationality, the height of being divorced from any sense of reality, you know, fact-based reality. Now, you're also referring to what was recalled to me was Einstein's statement that the rational mind is a faithful servant and the heart is an intuitive gift. And we've created a society that's put the servant in charge of the gift. And we need to right that relationship, right? That you're saying what feels true and right to me, what feels good, let me be in tune with what feels true and good, right? With the true and good desires of my heart, but make sure that then the rational mind is serving that, right?
Yeah.
Instead of the mind controlling the intuitive gift.
Exactly. I really mean that, like as a truth seeker myself, somebody who really seeks to always know the truth, I realized last year that it's not possible. It's not possible anymore to find the truth outside. There's no numbers, there's no studies right now who can actually prove anything. I mean, I already gave up on that 5 years ago when I tried to prove people that a vegan diet is healthier. I realized that there is always going to be enough data you can reproduce, which gives you another opinion. So that I ended this game already, but I also ended it as a whole, because if you're in Mexico right now and you see how people are here, and then you read a news article or a newspaper over the place where you're living right now, and that you see what Americans are talking about the place here, and you just see how it couldn't be the more opposite. So there is I mean, you said the politicians are just completely disconnected from their intuition because they're so much in fear. Like the politicians are basically just doing everything they can to not be the idiot who did something different. So they all do the same. So nobody has to be responsible for fucking up. So that's why I mean, I have a lot of empathy for those people because they are scared. They are completely not in their higher self, and that's what I mean with they try to be rational, but they're obviously not. And they're also irrational based on fear instead of based on like values and like the actual truth. And that's why I mean, if you really want to like look what we have right now, we have politics, we have science, and we have the media. Those are the three biggest authorities in the world, and they all made the anchor. They all brought the anchor so far away that even if right now there would be an easier solution, even if there is proof that this could get different, it's not possible anymore. It's too late. It's not that they want to, like, I don't believe in any conspiracy. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I just understand how human minds work. And if you set the anchor far enough, you can't just row back, because then you really lose the people. Right now, you lost 50% of the people, I would say. I would say it's like a 50-50, maybe 60-40. But if you now say, you know what, guys, we actually realized we're no lockdowns anymore, but we're going to go back to normal, and you can't. You can't, because it's too far off. You lose the trust in people who believed in you. So science, the media, and politicians are all in a really like it's a sketchy place right now. Like how do you come back to normal right now without losing the trust?
There's this. For me, I go back to spiritual principle, and I even think of a biblical statement that says, be in the world but not of it. And so there's some real things going on in the world, right? There's some real stuff we have to deal with. We can't just be on a mountaintop meditating or doing plant medicine all the time, right? We have to be in the world, but not of it. And so, there's this world of even science. Science itself is predicated on change, right? It's predicated on hypothesis and disproving that hypothesis and coming up with another one, right? So this is the world of change, the world of effects, right? It may seem permanent, but those mountains, as old as whatever mountains you're around, whatever, seems permanent, is changing. But there is something that isn't changing and isn't stagnant. And I go back to science. I look at the first law of thermodynamics. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, but transferred or conveyed into various forms. So there's an energy that's neither created nor destroyed. There's something eternal that had no beginning and no end, that was always there, this energy, this mystery and majesty of life. And it's expressing in duality. It's expressing, however, all duality can be brought back to a singular source. So, for example, hot and cold. There's absolute hot and there's absolute cold, but hot and cold are, in duality, are an expression of one thing, heat. Light and dark is an expression of light, more or less light. It's all on a continuum. But in other words, apparent dualities can be harmonized, which is what we were talking about in the beginning of the conversation. And so when we think about this changing world of effects, of what's right and wrong in terms of science or politics or social media, that's all going to always be changing. But I can anchor into something that isn't changing, that's unchanging, and that is some truth that's in me and in you. And we access that in self-reflection. We access that in those quiet moments. It's beyond the mind. It's beyond thinking, and it's direct knowing. And I think that's why plant medicine is so powerful for you, because when we step into these experiences, finally, all of those, all of that stuff gets shut down. Our egoic mind, our analytic mind, all of the parts of us that are full of opinion and judgment. And finally, we hear something real. We catch something beyond what ears can hear and eyes can see. And it's a direct knowing. And then that's where the intuitive nature is a gift. And now we don't want to just be with our heads in the clouds. I did plant medicine and this is what I saw, or I did meditation and this is what I saw. Now our job is to be the bridge, to bring that heaven to earth, to bring that insight beyond words, beyond thinking, into action through our analytic mind. Now our rational mind is a faithful servant executing the ideas, insights, revelations, downloads that we got from the fifth dimension. Am I making any sense, brother?
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, you really nailed it. I also think it's obviously like a awakening process right now happening. I already told you that in February when I came. I feel myself, I'm a big bridge, and I brought a lot of people to Rythmia, and I will continue bringing a lot of people to Rythmia and to this plant medicine. I will do my own retreats. I will do everything I can. And I also feel like it's just not for everybody in this personal lifetime. It's the same with everything. Like, you will have a lot of people right now waking up, but you will have a lot of people not, and it's also okay. It's my biggest intention is just that people, like, or let's say like this, my biggest wish is just that people realize that nobody's the enemy. Like it's nobody's fault. Everybody takes responsibility, but it's nobody's fault. So, and if you see it like this, you realize, oh shit, okay, it's not politicians' fault, it's not media's fault, it's not Bill Gates' fault. but I have to take responsibility for my life, whatever that means. So now ask yourself, what does this mean? For me, it meant to actually come here to Mexico, create a lot of videos for people to see that this is a place you can live, where you can have fun, where people are connecting together, where there's still a tribe, there's still a community. So right now there's over 250 people who just came here out of our community just to live here. So a lot of people are living right now in Tulum, from Switzerland, Germany, from LA. And I'm going to go on. This is the responsibility I'll take. It's like, I'm not going to fight. I'm not, like, being against something is cheap. Like, it's like,
amen. But before something, don't be against something.
Before something.
Totally. And you know, this idea of waking up, right? And what's right for everybody. And it's like, you know, each person has such a, let's see, what do I really want to say about this? You said something, it triggered something in my mind, and I think I lost it already. You're right. Plant medicine isn't for everybody, but what is for everybody is waking up to their potential. That's the key, that each one of us is a unique expression, right? And this is what I also wanted to go back to from what we were talking about before. Ernest Holmes was a great mystic and teacher and founder of a Science of Mind. Really cool mystic and teacher. And he has a book called Love and Law. So the universe is built on love, the loving intelligence. It's all love, created out of love, and lawful. It's both impersonal and personal. So the law is impersonal and love is personal, right? And so we have this loving expression of life, just expressing out of itself, so abundant, making more of itself out of itself. It gives us the gift of life. How do we know that it's loving? Because you and I and all of us have been given this gift of life without any condition. We could be Mother Teresa, or we could be, you know, the worst person we can think of, whoever you want to say that is, right? Yeah. It's our choice. So it's freely given. That's love. And yet there's lawful aspects, right? There's some truth to the law of circulation, the law of buoyancy, right? There's some laws, some paradigms that are just that exist, right? And that we can observe. So it's love and law. It's impersonal and personal. And then from that perspective, then we each have a mandate to wake up to our the truth of who we are, and to express that which can only be uniquely expressed through you as you, and me as me, and each person on this call right now. Because if we don't, it'll never be expressed, ever, because there'll never be another you or another me. And it's our mandate. We can't leave this place without leaving our energetic signature fully expressed, fully used up. Right. And that's the mandate. So
I mean,
brother,
I feel it's really hard. Yeah, sorry. I feel it's really hard for me, because I also work with people and helping them to actually tap into their potential. But those are people, they came to me, they asked me for help. And I feel like if I say to a person, hey, you have so much potential, it's basically like, it's an empty statement, because the other person won't be able to tap into it until it finds for herself. And sometimes people are exactly where they are. I also had more potential last year, but I wasn't tapping into it until now. And in 5 years, I will also see a lot of things different. So I feel like, for me, the most profound truth I came to through a big, very, very strong psychedelic journey in October with 5-MeO DMT. I don't know if you're aware of the compound, like the Bufo. I think it was like a 5-MeO DMT. The guy broke me, basically. Like he made sure this time I won't just walk away the easy way. And I realized, like, there is nothing wrong with reality. Like, it is, and everything else is fine. So Yeah,
Amen.
so I am there, man. I'm there now.
I can't believe our time, ran so quickly.
Yeah.
It's always such a pleasure. I remember sitting outside of the Maloka and you interviewed me for your podcast, and we just had such a great conversation. And it happened again. You're such a joy to speak to, brother. I really enjoy you. And is there anything, kind of closing as we close up, anything that I didn't ask that that you would want to have had asked of you? Anything that you want to say?
Yeah, I was contemplating a lot about the meaning of life for myself the past couple of weeks, because I'm turning 30 now, and I always have my purpose. I feel I'm on purpose, but sometimes people ask me, Mischa, what is the meaning of life for you? And I never really bothered about it, but now I realized, and also Shelly Morales just wrote that she has COVID right now, so I also had it. When came here, got it. It was like 3 nights where I wasn't able to sleep really good, and I felt a little bit weak. And I realized, for me, what I really feel is the purpose of life is just like live the life with all the ups and all the downs. Like, take life balls and just fucking live. Feel alive every day. Like, always feel alive. Like, no, don't hesitate. Like, don't shy back. Don't be scared of life. Like, fucking take it. Take it hard every day. And it will just give you so much more than you will ever have. So that's, I mean, there's awareness, there is love, there's all those nice words. But if I really, the moment I feel alive is when I broke my wrist in Bali, when I had the COVID, when I had the techno party, when I had heartbreak, when I loved, when I cried. Like, this is life. So if you're scared of life, you're scared of everything. Like, that's why most people hide right now. Like, they're scared of death, and that's why they're scared of life, and that's why they're scared of taking action for actually living it purposefully. So that's just what I want to give to everybody here. Like, don't be scared of life, and just take it, just live it.
I love it. Okay, I gotta tell you, there's a movie, an old movie. I don't even know if you can find it on any streaming platform, but it's called The Big Night. The Big Night. And there's a Lebanese guy, Tony Shalhoub is in it, and oh God, there's some great actors in it. It's probably from the 90s, The Big Night, and it's these 2 brothers from Italy that come to the United States in the 50s and start an Italian restaurant, and all anybody wants is spaghetti and meatballs, and they're making like risotto and orzo pasta, and it's a different time in the United States on a culinary level. So the movie is about them getting some big star to come to their restaurant, these 2 brothers, and there's a guy from their same small town that has a very popular restaurant. So there's a scene, this is coming up to what you said, like, you got to take it hard, right? There's a scene where the 2 brothers go to this other guy who's a successful businessman from their same small town. They both have restaurants. One's, super busy. Isabella Rossellini is at the hostess at the really busy one. And the other guys have great food, but nobody's there. So they're talking to their fellow villager, and his name is Pasquale. And he looks at him and he says, "You must sink your teeth into the ass of life and drag it towards you." So that's what that's what it reminded me of, right, brothers? Yeah. You got to watch that movie and just sink your teeth, into the ass of life, and drag it towards you. Life fully, all of it, because all of it is happening for us. All of it is happening for us. Even the apparent. That's why Jesus says, "Don't get caught up in appearances," because it could look like it's cloudy, but guess what? The sun is shining on the other side of those clouds. So it's all a matter of appearances. Don't get caught up in the stuff that changes. Stick with the eternal. Brother, we're going to get you back to Rythmia soon. I'm so grateful for this generosity.
Another week. Yeah.
Beautiful. And in the coming year, as you continue to unfold, and for everybody, I didn't even get to acknowledge Shelly and Nushin and everybody. So many people were commenting. Thank you so much. My wish for you this year, as we move into 2021, is an abundance of all manner, health of body, peace of mind, and all needs met, all material needs met, all spiritual needs met, all physical needs met, all emotional needs met, all needs met. It's all happening for us. So here's to a great year. Thank you. Peace and blessings. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.